Hello and welcome back to Shakesyear. We're still working on Romeo and Juliet, and today we get to hear from Romeo in Act 3, Scene 3. And he's currently hiding out at the Friars, at Friar Lawrence, because he killed Tybalt and then ran away because he didn't want to have to face the punishment of the prince right there in the street in front of everyone else. So also just real quick recap, he and Juliet are now married. They've been married for like 3 hours-ish. So at this point, they've maybe actually known each other for almost 24 hours. Let's say they've known each other for like 24 hours now. And they've been married for the last 3. Juliet, upon learning that Romeo killed Tybalt, was devastated, and even more devastated by the fact that Romeo is now banished, because as it turns out, she's okay with the fact that her husband is a murderer. She would rather be loyal to her husband, and she still wants to sleep with her husband, and if she can't have that, she wants to die. But the nurse doesn't want her to die, obviously. I mean, this is like practically her kid. So the nurse has instead gone to go get Romeo, hoping that Romeo can comfort Juliet, and then maybe Juliet won't feel the need to hang herself. So now Act 3, Scene 3, we are at Friar Lawrence's, where Romeo has been hiding, trying to find out what's his doom, essentially. And Friar Lawrence comes in. He's like, actually, I have some good news for you. And Romeo's like, what? And he's like, well, you're not going to be put to death. You're going to be banished. And Romeo's like, that's worse. That's so much worse than death is being banished. And Friar Lawrence is like, what are you talking? This is a mercy that the prince is extending you. He's allowing you to live. He's showing mercy and just banishing you. I mean, there's a whole great big wide world out there. You just won't be able to be in Verona. So like, look at this for the mercy that it is. And Romeo says, 'tis torture and not mercy. Heaven is here, where Juliet lives, and every cat and dog and little mouse, every unworthy thing live here in heaven and may look on her, but Romeo may not. More validity, more honorable state, more courtship lives in carrion flies than Romeo. They may seize on the white wonder of dear Juliet's hand and steal immortal blessing from her lips. Ooh. Even in pure and vestal modesty, still blush as thinking their own kiss is sin. This may flies do, when I from this must fly. And sayest thou yet that exile is not death? But Romeo may not. He is banished. Hast thou no poison mixed, no sharp ground knife, no sudden mean of death, though ne'er so mean, but banished to kill me? Banished? O friar, the damned use that word in hell. Howlings attends it. How hast thou the heart, being a divine, a ghostly confessor, a sin absolver, and my friend professed to mangle me with that word, banished? So Romeo's taking it about as well as Juliet did. He equates being banished with being killed. He says that being banished is worse than being killed. And he also says that cats, dogs, and mice are unworthy things, which I might take some issue with. But there's bigger stuff here. I mean, he also says that flies are luckier than he is because they can still land on Juliet's hand or steal kisses from her lips. And I don't know that just being married to somebody for 3 hours just past, I would be thinking about flies landing on their lips, but whatever. So then he asks the friar if there's perhaps some poison lying around or a knife with which he can kill himself, because and he's like, the best thing that you have to kill me with is the word banished? Really? You, a priest? A priest who's supposed to be my friend is going to kill me with the word banished? And again, sort of like yesterday in Juliet's monologue, if you want to get the feminine ending on some of these lines, you know, iambic pentameter with the ba-dum, 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 that's like a masculine ending. And when you get a ba-dum, 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 bum, that's called a feminine ending. If you want to get the feminine endings, you can turn them into banisheds instead of banished. So just beware of your scansion and what it's telling you. I mean, if you wanted to keep them all banished instead of banished, then a couple of your lines would be shorter, which would allow for more pauses. I don't know. Some of that, I think, can be personal preference based on what you want to say about Romeo's mental state, but I think what it comes down to in general is that Romeo is also not necessarily in his right mind at this time, and the friar sees that and can also tell that Romeo is being really illogical at this point, and he's like, you're not listening. You're not being reasonable, you're not listening to reason, you're not hearing the actual words that I'm saying, so therefore you must be a madman. And Romeo has retorts as he continues on in his pity party, and then there's a knock at the door, and the friar's like, oh crap, you gotta go hide because there's a knock at the door. And Romeo's like, no, just let them take me. He continues on with the pity party, but it turns out that the knock at the door is the nurse. So Romeo doesn't necessarily have to hide. The nurse comes in, and we will get into what she brings to the conversation. We'll get into that tomorrow. So I will see you then for that. Mwah.